Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 12-team PPR mock draft from the first overall spot on Sleeper.com. The roster positions for today's video is going to be 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. But before we head on into this mock draft, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at Notorious FNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into this 12-team PPR mock draft over on Sleeper. So we have the 101, the number 1 overall pick, and to me, this pick is very simple. We are going to be going with Jonathan Taylor. I would say in about 95% of drafts this year, Jonathan Taylor will be the number 1 overall pick. I know in prior years, there was kind of the one favorite player to go number 1, but it was really only in like 75% of drafts, because then some people will try to get cute and draft another player. This year, it seems like a majority of people are on the consensus that you should be drafting Jonathan Taylor at the 101. He loses Carson Wentz. He gets Matt Ryan. They have a pretty similar team as a whole, maybe even just better offensively. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to dominate yet again. Now, you can make the argument for Christian McCaffrey going number 1 overall. When Christian McCaffrey is healthy, this guy is a fucking menace to society in terms of fantasy football. This guy will put your team on his back when he is healthy. He has not been healthy over the last couple of years, but even in those few games that he was playing over the last 2 years, when he was healthy, the guy's amazing. So you can definitely make the argument that you could take Christian McCaffrey number 1 overall. Will it happen in some drafts? Yes, it definitely will. But for me, I like Jonathan Taylor. I like the safety of him, but I'm still fine drafting Christian McCaffrey, right? I understand he's missed those games, but at the end of the day, you can still take Christian McCaffrey, because if he is healthy, he could be the number 1 running back in fantasy football. I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor here, though, at the 101. That would be my pick. So after I go with Jonathan Taylor, comes Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Cooper Kupp, Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, as well as Travis Kelce to close out the first round. The second round opens with Devontae Adams, DeAndre Swift, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, CeeDee Lamb, Alvin Kamara, Tyreek Hill, Mark Andrews, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, and Josh Allen. So in the first round this year, compared to the last couple of years, I feel as though we're to see the most amount of wide receivers go in the first round when compared to prior seasons. Cooper Kupp is basically lock and loaded into the top 5 picks of the first round, and then after that, you're going to see some smorgasbord of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs. Some people take CeeDee Lamb, some people prefer Devontae Adams, but you're probably going to see at least 4 or 5 wide receivers go inside of the first round of your draft this year, which is definitely different than last year, because you're only seeing like 2 or 3, and then the only other non-running back was Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce also seems locked into the end of the first round last year, and then Mark Andrews, who a lot of people feel very closely with him and Travis Kelce. They're pretty close in the rankings. Mark Andrews typically goes about a couple of picks later than Travis Kelce. So we are back up on the board. Josh Allen already came off the board. I am not drafting a quarterback in the first couple of rounds. In the 5th round is when my mind starts to really open, and I think, oh, you know what? Maybe I could take a quarterback here if one falls. For example, say Lamar Jackson falls to me in the 5th round. I'm definitely going to pull the trigger on him in a lot of situations. So we're back up on the board here with back-to-back picks. We already got Jonathan Taylor, our running back, so we are going to go ahead and look anywhere here. You can go hero running back strategy, which is you draft Jonathan Taylor, that's your one guy, then you can go ahead and just hammer in on wide receivers. Looking at the board here, we got Deebo Samuel, Javonte Williams, Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, Keenan Allen, Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott's ADP is significantly higher on Sleeper compared to Underdog Fantasy, where I do a lot of my drafts right now, so that is pretty interesting here. We are just going to go ahead and go with the best players available in my mind. I think that's what you want to be doing here. I don't think you want to be trapping yourself into some strategy. So we are going to go with Deebo Samuel here. I understand there are some worries with Deebo Samuel. Will he be able to see the same amount of volume in the rushing game as he did last year? In my opinion, probably not, but he is the number 1 wide receiver on the team. I understand they're going from Jimmy G-Spot to Mr. Trey Lance, but I think Deebo Samuel will be just fine, and I'm fine taking him at the end of the 2nd round or in the early 3rd round. Then after this, I'm going to open up with a running back because I'm not as in love with Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin. The running backs are pretty solid here. Tight end, Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is a fine pick, but for me, I would rather just go running back here and lock in our number 1 and number 2 running backs at this spot. So Javonte Williams to me is probably going to be stuck, locked up in a committee with Melvin Gordon. Now, is Javonte Williams some talentless fuck who's not going to be able to eventually elevate himself at the NFL level? I do not believe that. I don't think that Javonte Williams sucks. I think that Javonte Williams is very good, but Melvin Gordon is still going to be there, and Melvin Gordon is going to wreak havoc on this offense. I think a lot of people are expecting Javonte Williams to really be breaking free from Melvin Gordon, and I don't see that happening. So I'm going to be going with Mr. Aaron Jones, running back of the Green Bay Packers. They lose Devontae Adams to the Las Vegas Raiders. And now Aaron Jones is going to be in a spot where you could potentially see a bunch of dump-offs. But Nick, they have A.J. Dillon. I know they have A.J. Dillon, but I'm not worried at all about A.J. Dillon. I think Aaron Jones is going to be just fine this year. After I go with Mr. Aaron Jones comes Javonte Williams, Higgins, Ezekiel Elliott, Keenan Allen, James Conner, Cam Akers, Justin Herbert the pervert, Kyle Pitts, Pat Mahomes, Leonard Fournette, Antonio Gibson. Do not take Antonio Gibson in the 3rd round. David Montgomery, DK Metcalf, Darren Waller, Breece Hall, DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Lamar Jackson, George Kittle, Timbers, Michael Pittman, and Travis Etienne. The reason why you don't want to be taking Antonio Gibson in the 3rd round seems pretty obvious at this point. It seems like the team wants to go with more of a committee approach. It's been very hard to really decipher what Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron, has wanted to do with Antonio Gibson over the last couple of years. They bring in Carson Wentz, so maybe the team's going to be slightly better, but at the end of the day, I just don't buy into Antonio Gibson. I'd much rather wait later and just draft J.D. McKissick. So looking at the board here, we're just going to go with best player available. For me, the tight ends are kind of off the board at this point. Like, I don't want to go with tight end because Kittle's already gone, Andrews, Waller, Pitts, Kelsey, those are the top 5. Then after that, sure, you can definitely draft Dalton Schultz. I'm not saying that you shouldn't draft them, but at this point, when George Kittle just went a couple of picks ago, I don't feel that's worthy at all. So we're going either wide receiver or running back. My 2 favorite players here are wide receivers, so that's where we're going to be going. Now, the opinion on Jalen Waddle is pretty different from person to person. You ask one person, and they feel like Jalen Waddle has been absolutely skull-fucked by Mr. Tyreek Hill coming there. Other people are a little bit more confident, like myself. I think Jalen Waddle is going to end up being just fine in Miami. Now, does he have that exact same top 10, top 5 upside that he would have had without Tyreek Hill being there? Obviously not, right? It's going to be very hard for him to surpass Tyreek Hill, but I do believe that Jalen Waddle will be just fine. I think the Dolphins are going to be just fine, so I like Jalen Waddle a ton. If you didn't like Jalen Waddle there, I think your best option would have been either Courtland Sutton or Allen Robinson. Now, Allen Robinson might be the number 2 wide receiver in LA. I mean, it's pretty much a guarantee for the Rams, right, that he's the number 2 receiver because Cooper Kupp is so fucking dominant, unless Cooper Kupp gets hurt, but we're not rooting for injuries. I'm not going to assume Cooper Kupp gets hurt, so, he's the number 2 receiver. And then you might be thinking, Nick, it's not a lock that Courtland Sutton is the number 1 receiver on his team. And I agree with you, Jerry Jeudy could be that guy, but to me, Courtland Sutton profiles better as the number 1, the alpha wide receiver on the Denver Broncos. I think he's going to be scoring a bunch of touchdowns. I think Russell Wilson is going to help him out a ton. And we have seen Courtland Sutton really elevate himself at the NFL level a couple of years ago with Drew Lock at quarterback. So this is a huge step up from Mr. Horsecock Drew Lock to Russell Wilson. So my pick here would be Courtland Sutton. I'm not out on Amari Cooper, but if I'm being honest with you, I don't think we should be assuming that Deshaun Watson is going to end up playing any games. And if that is the case and we don't see Watson play at all, then Amari Cooper is going to be with Jacoby Brissett. No bueno, in my opinion. So after Courtland Sutton comes Chris Godwin. A lot of positive reports coming for Chris Godwin, but it's more optimism than an actual report. So who knows when Godwin will return. After that, J.K. Dobbins, Mr. Joe Shiesty, Joe Burrow, Josh Jacobs, Amari Cooper, Hollywood Brown, Allen Robinson, Jerry Jeudy, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Michael Thomas, Damian Harris, Kyler Murray, Elijah Mitchell, Brandon Cooks, Miles Sanders, Dalton Schultz, Mike Williams, DeAndre Hopkins, TJ Hawkinson, Adam Thielen, Jalen Hurts, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jalen Hurts would have been my pick if he was available here. I think Jalen Hurts is certainly worthy of a 6th-round pick, and I think he could easily finish as the number 1 quarterback on the season because of that immense rushing upside. Now, we are in the 6th round. I think it's all right if you want to take a guy like Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, but for me, I'd rather just go ahead and wait till a little bit later. So right now, through the first 6 rounds, or our first 5 picks, this is going to be our 6th pick in the 6th round, we have Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, and Courtland Sutton. So 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. The draft is pretty open at this point. Again, if you wanted to go tight end, I'm fine with it. But at this point, I'm probably going to punt unless I want to go ahead and hope that Zach Ertz falls to us, or I have to take Dallas Goedert here. Unless you're a little bit more confident in Dawson Knox like I am, but I'm not 100% as excited about Dawson Knox as I was before. I still think he's going to have a good year, but I don't know. I'm just not as sold in, right? I'm not like pushing heavily for it. So right here, looking at the board, we got A.J. Dillon, Kenneth Walker, who, if I'm going to be honest, I think he's going to be a pretty big bust this year. I really think Rashad Penny, unless he gets hurt, which is possible, right? It is Rashad Penny. I think Penny is going to be the number 1 back on the team. Then they have Darnell Mooney, Drake London, Dallas Goedert, Juju Smith, Corvette, Schuster, Treylon Burks. For me, it's pretty easy here. The running backs, again, I'd rather just wait. I like Devin Singletary. I like Edmonds. I like Penny. So I'm just going to wait. I'm going to go ahead and take Darnell Mooney here. Darnell Mooney is the clear number 1 alpha wide receiver on the Chi-Town Bears. I think that Darnell Mooney is going to see a step up in production because he's going to be the clear number 1 guy this year. Last year, Allen Robinson, why that guy basically took a shit on your chest if you drafted him, Darnell Mooney was still kind of behind him. So I do believe that Darnell Mooney is going to step up this year, especially because I think Justin Fields and this offense is going to look significantly better without that dumb motherfucker at head coach anymore, Matt Nagy. So we're back up on the board here. I think the pick for me here is either going to be Dallas Goedert or Drake London. I think Juju, there is definitely a chance that Juju Smith-Schuster does end up finishing as the number 1 receiver on the Chiefs. I think there's also a chance that MVS is the number 1 receiver, or Justin Ross, or any of these guys. There's a lot of guys on this team that could be the number 1 wide receiver. Sky Moore. I mean, Travis Kelce might be the number 1 in terms of targets. He probably will be. So this is a very hard offense to decipher. If you get it right, you're going to be singing your way all the way to the fucking bank, right? Or maybe they just spread the ball around and all of them are kind of just meh, which is definitely possible. So here, we are going to go with tight end because I do feel pretty comfortable with Dallas Goedert. I understand, Nick, they bring in A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown is going to be solid in this offense. I understand they're a run-heavy offense, but Dallas Goedert was getting peppered by Jalen Hurts all of last year. Dallas Goedert is a relatively efficient tight end, so I'm pretty comfortable taking him here at the 701. Before we get on into our next pick in the draft, I would like to ask that if you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, that you make sure to hit that like button as well as that subscribe button. I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor of today's video, which is Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the single best place to play fantasy football this summer. It is currently July. I know a lot of people wait till August for the redraft leagues, but you can do these best ball drafts right now. Last year's Best Ball Mania champion drafted their team in June, so there's really no wait. And my favorite thing about fantasy football is the draft. I love doing these mock draft videos. I think it's very fun to talk through a lot of different scenarios, and you can do a real draft right now, and you don't even have to worry about doing trades, setting your lineup, doing the waiver wire, because Underdog Fantasy will automatically set your lineup every single week, give you the highest points scored possible out of your team. Again, I love drafting. I don't necessarily love on Tuesday setting a million fucking waiver wire claims. I don't love doing that. So if you guys want to check out Underdog Fantasy, make sure you use promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, and they will give you a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. Their biggest tournament, Best Ball Mania 3, has the number 1 prize pool. If you finish first, you win $2 million. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. Again, promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO. So back on into the draft. After Goddard came A.J. Dillon, Mr. Juju Smith-Schuster, Kenny Walker, Drake London, Russell Wilson, Gabe Davis, Cordero Patterson, Dickie Dak Prescott, Treylon Burks, Devontae Smith, Rashad Bateman, Garrett Wilson, Kareem Hunt, Brandon Ayuk, Tony Pollard, Elijah Moore, Devin Singletary, Chase Edmonds, yikes, Hunter Renfrow, Tyler Lockett, Robert Woods, and Melvin Gordon. The two players I wanted the most are now gone, but that's the gamble you take in fantasy football when you wait on these guys. You don't reach. It's okay with me. We still have two running backs that I'm very confident in, so I'm not going to go ahead and panic at quarterback. I like Tom Brady, but at this point, I'd rather just wait. So we're looking at running back here. I want to go ahead and snag another running back that I feel as though is going to be the number one guy on their team, their given team, and that is going to be Rashad Penny. We do have Jonathan Taylor and Mr. Aaron Jones on bye in week 14, but I don't worry too much about buys in redraft fantasy football and your regular fantasy football draft, because by week 14, this team is going to look drastically different because some of these players won't end up working out. Some of these players will end up getting hurt. That's just how shit goes. And they're going to be cutting people. You're going to be trading people. So at the end of the day, your team's going to look much different. So don't worry too much about buys in redraft fantasy football. I don't think you should necessarily have some type of mental warfare with yourself trying to draft a team with the bye weeks. Don't think too much about the bye weeks, except for a quarterback and tight end, because if you're going to draft two quarterbacks, make sure, if they have the same fucking bye week, you're screwed that week, and then you're going to have to cut someone, so there's no reason to even draft them. That's just kind of my opinion on things. So looking back at the board here, I think James Cook is an interesting pick as well. Again, I'm not super sold on the kind of quarterbacks in this range. I like Tom Brady, but I'd rather just wait and draft Trey Lance. Like, Trey Lance's ADP is going to skyrocket in a couple of weeks. Once people stop kind of pussyfooting around the idea of Trey Lance, the rushing upside is just so big. So I'm just going to go ahead and wait and then get Trey Lance next round. I'm going to go with Mr. James Cook. Now, I do like Devin Singletary a ton. I think Devin Singletary is going to end up being the lead back on the team, but is there a chance James Cook potentially moseys his way on in there and swoops away the role? Maybe. I think it is possible. I think James Cook is pretty talented. He's a great pass catching back, so he will definitely have an immediate impact on the team. It's just the question of how strong will that impact be. So after James Cook comes Mr. Zach Ertz, Dawson Knox one time if you are with me, Aaron Rodgers, Patty Mahomes, Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, Mike Licky, Ahmad Gesicki, Christian Kirk, Chris Olave, Ramondre Stevenson, Michael Carter, Russell Gage, Trey Lance. Again, we kind of played the waiting game, and then we got swooped up again, but it's okay. Again, in these drafts, you take a gamble. If it doesn't work out, the team's still going to look great without Trey Lance. So don't worry too much. If you want Trey Lance, I guess you kind of have to pull the trigger in the 9th round if you really want him. So after Trey Lance comes Christian Watson, and then Chase Claypool, Allen Lazard, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Javonte Williams, Michael Gallup, Dameon Pierce, and Cole Kmet. Well, it actually kind of depends on the league you are in. Because if I'm being honest with you, right, in most redraft leagues, you're not going to have some bozos like the computer here drafting two quarterbacks. And when I say that, I don't mean that people aren't going to draft two quarterbacks, because that's going to happen, but people shouldn't draft Joe Burrow and then fucking a couple rounds later draft Aaron Rodgers. You shouldn't draft Russell Wilson 2 rounds later draft Tom Brady. You just should not do that. It doesn't make very much sense in my opinion, so just don't be doing that. So we're back up on the board here. Still some solid quarterbacks, though. Kirk Cousins, kind of underrated, but if we are in this range, I think Derek Carr is pretty good as well, so I'm not really all that worried here right now. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs, 1, 2, 3, 4 wide receivers. Based upon the team we have kind of constructed right now, we got to put a lot of emphasis on wide receiver because, again, I like Rashad Penny, I like James Cook, but those are not going to be my flex. My flex is going to be Darnell Mooney, Cortland Sutton. It's going to be these wide receivers. So we need to go ahead and draft another wide receiver. I'm confident in my tight end, so I'm not drafting a backup tight end. We're going to go based off of upside here. The safest pick here would be Jarvis Landry or Tyler Boyd. You draft them, they'll score you like 10, 12 points every week. It is what it is, but for me, MVS has the upside to be the numero uno, number 1 wide receiver on the Kansas City Chiefs. I talked about it earlier. Maybe this ends up being the wrong pick. Maybe MVS doesn't end up being shit. Maybe it's Juju. Maybe it's Sky Moore. Or maybe it's really just none of them, and Travis Kelce really elevates himself, and they're kind of, Patrick Mahomes is just sharing the load with everyone else, right? Kind of just distributing the ball evenly to everyone. So, in my opinion, I would not worry too much about that. I think we are going to be just fine here with MVS. And at the end of the day, if my 10th round pick ends up missing, that's okay because I hunted for the upside, and I think MVS has a shit ton of upside this year. So we're back up on the board here. We are going to go quarterback, and we're going to go with Derek Carr, with Devontae Adams, with Hunter Renfrow, with Darren Waller. Josh Jacobs isn't necessarily a pass-catching back, but they have a solid offensive line. They have a solid running back. Like, come on, Derek Carr, you got to fucking do it this year if you're ever gonna really elevate yourself. He has elevated himself in the past, but if he's really going to elevate himself recently, it's going to be this year. He could finish as a top 5 quarterback, in my opinion. Going to be difficult, though, because he doesn't have much rushing upside. Doesn't have much rushing upside, but it is entirely possible. I just realized here that the draft is not technically long enough for us to draft a kicker and a defense and the 2 benches because Sleeper fucked it up, but it is what it is. You guys get the point of today's video as well, so sorry about that. After Derek Carr comes Kirk Cousins. You like that? Rojo, Isaiah Spiller. We got James Robinson, Albert O, Alexander Mattison Tyler, yeah, Boyd, Hunter Henry, Tua Tagovailoa, Irv Smith, Jarvis Landry, Naheem Hines, Kenny Golladay, Kenny G. Spot, Darrell Henderson, Jahan Dotson, Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, White, Jacoby Myers, Tyler Algier, Tim Patrick, and Marlon Mack. Deshaun Watson, don't draft him. Don't draft him. I don't think he's going to play this year. There was something that leaked a couple days ago that maybe he was going to get a 12-game suspension. That'd be pretty crazy. Thinking he gets the whole year, I'd be shocked if it was less than that at this point. If you aren't comfortable with Derek Carr, I would suggest you draft another quarterback, but I am no scaredy cat. I'm going to draft Derek Carr. If Derek Carr sucks, guess what? You're getting your ass cut off the roster, and I'm picking up a quarterback with upside like Danny Dimes, so for me, that's just how I think of things. We're going receiver again. I'm pretty confident in these 4 running backs that I got. I'm basically just going to stick in with these guys. If you aren't as confident in them, maybe you go with another running back. But for me, I'm definitely going at least 1 wide receiver with this pick. And I'm going to be hunting for a potential boom at the beginning of the season. That's going to be Jalen Tolbert. I think Jalen Tolbert could slot in as the number 2 wide receiver, as Michael Gallup could potentially miss the first 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season. I think Jalen Tolbert, while as a rookie, he's not necessarily a first-round pick, could step in there and dominate early on, especially with Amari Cooper now in Cleveland. I think the role for Tolbert could be big. I think if you want to be a little bit safer, you could go with a guy like Devontae Parker, who I think might be the number 1 receiver in New England. Again, we're not going to be able to get both the kicker and the defense here, so we are going to go running back. In case you guys are a little bit nervous with the wide receiver core, I would be fine going a running back here. I'm just going to go with kind of one of those safer kind of picks here if you're nervous about Rashad Penny and James Cook. If you're hunting for some supreme upside, you might want to go elsewhere. I am going to go with Mark Ingram, who I believe is going to be the quote-unquote handcuff for the Mr. Alvin Kamara, who is potentially going to be suspended for the first couple games of the season, maybe 4, 5, 6 games we're looking at here. And if he's gone for 4, 5, 6 games, Mark Ingram could be our flex. Now, I know, Nick, you just talked about a couple of minutes ago how your wide receiver, running back, tight end spot, that flex is going to be filled by a receiver, not a running back, you stupid motherfucker. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, but I think Mark Ingram really does have, like, top 10 potential weekly if Alvin Kamara's gone. So after Mark Ingram comes Devontae Parker, Noah Fant, Rondell Moore. We got Kenneth Gainwell, George Pickens, David Njoku, Raheem Mostert, Trevor Lawrence, Tyler Higbee, Rob Gronkowski, who's retired, DJ Chark, a bunch of kickers and defenses. Here, I would go just with whatever kicker is best available. And then for defense, I want to go ahead and just stream the defense position, pick a guy that has a good week number 1. Now, for some reason, the draft just magically gave us an extra round. So shout out to Sleeper for doing that. Don't know why it looked fucked up before. So we're just going to go with the defense with the best matchup in week number 1. I haven't necessarily memorized week 1 all to my brain right now. It's July, but soon enough, I will have that all memorized, and we would go with the team with the best matchup week 1. I like streaming defenses. If their matchup week 2 sucks, it is what it is. You just cut them, pick up a new defense, stream defenses. There will very likely be a streaming defense video every single week for you guys, so you don't even have to do the research. I will do it for you. So our team down here at the bottom right next to my beautiful face, right here. Our team is Derek Carr, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Deebo Samuel, Jalen Waddle, Dallas Goedert, Cortland Sutton, Matt Gay, and then the New Orleans Saints defense. Our bench is comprised of Darnell, here comes the Mooney, Rashad Penny, James Cook, MVS, Jalen Tolbert, and Mr. Mark Ingram. Let me know down below in the comment section what you guys thought about this team. Do you like the team? Do you hate the team? Let me know down below in the comment section. Where would you have went differently in the draft? I love you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.